My name's Kelley Waite. I'm a crewman with the Eastland Helicopter Rescue Trust, part of SRSL, serving East Coast and Tairāwhiti. Just remember on the day flying up the coast, we'd received a notification there was a beacon going off. We also had a bit of radio traffic that there was a potential accident and they were sending an ambulance as well. Wasn't too far up the coast, so it was about a 15-20 minute flight probably, and we flew overhead, and based on where the beacon was going off, we were pretty quick to see where the incident was. We could see a lot of traffic on the side of the road, and while we didn't see the bike initially, we circled over top and landed on the side of the hill. Tony put us within about 100 metres of where Peter was sitting. We could see that he was there with his daughter, or someone had him sitting up. And at the time we couldn't see where the bike was, and we later determined that was at the bottom of the hill. There was a whole bunch of cars and people parked at the bottom of the hill, including fire and I think ambulance, and there's a police vehicle down there as well. We landed on the side of the hill, and because we weren't sure of the injuries and whether he was able to walk, we thought maybe he'd just come off his bike and was able to walk. We didn't shut down initially, and Richard got out and walked over to Peter to see what his injuries were and see how he was doing. As he shut down, I elected to get out because Richard wasn't moving Peter at the time, and so I just got out of the helicopter and said to Tony, I'll go and figure out what's going on. He continued to shut down. It takes about 2 minutes for us to shut down the helicopter, so in that time we can elect to stay running if we need to and load up and go straight away. So we elected to shut down, and when I got over to Richard, I could see him talking to Peter. I didn't initially see Peter's injuries, but talking to Richard, and he made it pretty clear that he wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible, but that he didn't believe it was going to be appropriate to walk Peter out, so he just told me that we really need to shut down quickly, if that's what Tony was doing, and get the stretcher out and load him up and get him to hospital as soon as possible. So we elected to do that, shut down. We had the 3 kids were there. We knew that his wife Christine was in town, and so we got the stretcher over, loaded everyone on to the helicopter, and travelled down to the ED to meet Christine. It took about 20 minutes to get down to the hospital. There's always things we consider out this far out from a major trauma hospital, is whether we're going to come back to Gisborne. And the medic decided this time that we needed to come back to Gisborne to see how severe the injuries were. And we knew Christine was here, so either way we needed to get more fuel. So we were going to have to come back to Gisborne. It's a good place for us to stage. Without the helicopter on the east coast based in Gisborne, we would have to wait for anywhere between, it would have been at least an hour to an hour and a quarter for a helicopter to come from another region to pick up Peter off the side of the hill there that day. The other option obviously would have been a road response, but the time in an ambulance to get up there and back. And the nature of his injury is because we could land within 100 metres. We could have landed right next to him. We chose to land within 100 metres of where he was sitting on the side of the hill. Just remove that complexity. We can go straight to the patient, load him onto the stretcher in the back of the helicopter, and be back at the hospital within 20 minutes. When you think about the road drive from Tolaga Bay is about 45 minutes. So we've got a massive time saving, which really helps with the recovery of patients and is super important. It's really heartening to us to get to talk to people that we've helped and we've got them to where they need to be. Really just solidifies to us individually why we're here and what the work we do and how important it is. Another part of my role here is a base manager, and so part of that is to ensure that we're adhering to policy, and the health sector, when COVID came out or became prevalent, part of that was to make sure that we could continue to provide a health service. We don't have an unlimited amount of staff, so this base has had 3 medics, 3 crewmen and 3 pilots, and so in order to keep our service continual, we needed to, what we call a silo each group. So we ran a rostering system where a pilot, crewman and medic were on a shift together. We had separate rest areas so that we could eat and rest without having to wear masks the whole time by sitting in separate rooms, and we were able to do that because we had separate kitchen areas and office spaces. We wore masks when we were sharing a workspace, and that included in the helicopter. So on the way to jobs, we had what we call a COVID curtain, which is also used to restrict the light pollution to the front of the cockpit, which meant that the medic could treat a patient in the back of the helicopter and reduce the risk of exposure to the crew in the front with that curtain. We were wearing the N95 masks whenever we were interacting with patients as well, and so as part of that, the medics have a full PPE, and the crewmen if they were interacting with the patient for stretcher loading, etc. And so we had a full PPE kit that we would wear, including a full set of overalls, masks, 2 sets of gloves and glasses. And so we would wear them to treat any patient which had COVID symptoms, which was unconfirmed.